We all know everyone loves the look and feel of the original Star Wars trilogy, and I mean, how can't you? Practical and special effects were just utilized and mixed so perfectly in these films, combined with a superb John Williams soundtrack to create just such a tremendous, adventurous atmosphere for all the worlds and characters we've come to love. Then you have the prequels. I know the prequels have gotten more praise over time, but the look of the prequels were relatively known for not using really any practical effects at all, and just using way too much CGI. And while I do feel that Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith are good examples of this, I feel like The Phantom Menace has a completely different look, and just doesn't really deserve to be compared to the look of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. I feel like The Phantom Menace mixes, just special effects and practical effects just so perfectly. And honestly, I think The Phantom Menace is the best looking Star Wars movie that we've actually had since Return of the Jedi, and I also just really like the feeling that The Phantom Menace has. First of all, obviously one of the clear differences in production of The Phantom Menace compared to the rest of the prequels is that The Phantom Menace was the last Star Wars movie at the time to be shot on film. You can definitely tell that Phantom Menace has a more real-life look to the movie, compared to the other two prequels, and you can especially tell from the scenes that take place on Coruscant. I absolutely love the look and feel of Coruscant in The Phantom Menace. It just looks so fun, fresh, and lively. The amazing John Williams score really adds a nice taste of adventure to the city of politics. The politics on Coruscant can be a bore at times, in the movie, but Coruscant just looks so great and unique in this film that I'm just captivated by every scene that takes place on it. The part where they first arrive is definitely one of my favorite scenes in the prequels, and I just can't imagine how audiences in 1999 would have reacted to just the groundbreaking special effects and just the distinctive complexity of this planet, how they kind of showcased it in the scene.
Coruscant. The entire planet is one big city.
Then you go to Coruscant and Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and it just looks absolutely disgusting. I know Phantom Menace being shot on film gave it an advantage in how realistic scenes with inserted CGI looked, but I feel like the CGI in itself for Coruscant was just done so much better in The Phantom Menace. And I think a large part of this was due to the fact that the effects at the time of Phantom Menace's production were just more experimental, so they just kind of had to be cheap and just go with what they had. But since they had more control over the CGI in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, they just kind of overdid it and just threw as much CGI as they could, and it all just ends up looking like a video game. They also added disgusting tints to the background of Coruscant in Attack and Revenge, which just made it look worse. And I know they had a few weird tints in The Phantom Menace, but it wasn't as noticeable. But yeah, I just think Phantom Menace did such a good job of correctly visualizing, Coruscant and just the feeling. I felt much more invested in the feeling in Coruscant and Phantom Menace. Whereas in Clones and Sith, they just over-animated it too much, and it just kind of took away the adventure tone that the city had in Phantom Menace. However, I will give an exception to the cyberpunk look that they did in Attack of the Clones. There's that one speeder chase scene with, Zam Wessel. That I liked. Then again, the CGI isn't as noticeable, thanks to the fact that it's at nighttime, so you can't really notice how bad the CGI is, but I really do like the cyberpunk look that they gave it in Attack of the Clones. And even briefly in The Phantom Menace, there's that one scene with Darth Sidious and Darth Maul.
Tatooine is sparsely populated. If the
trace was correct, I will find them quickly, Master.
I do like the cyberpunk look a lot. I kind of wish they actually did more of it, but you know, when it's not cyberpunk in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, it just looks really disgusting. As I said earlier, Phantom Menace mixed in a lot of practical effects in with special effects, and you can just tell the movie has much more humanity into its look compared to Clones and Sith. And there were sets made for scenes on Naboo, Tatooine, the pod race, and just so much more. And I've always loved the Naboo palace scene, like towards the end of the movie, just because of how like realistic it looks and how great the music is, and just the way the whole scene was made is amazing. And like even like the sound effects are just like awesome in the scene. Lightsaber fight at the end also consisted of combining sets and blue screens, and they just combined it perfectly. And while I'm not a huge fan of the fight itself, it's a visually stunning scene with just an amazing John Williams score. And that fight alone just looks so much better than, like, you know, one of the action scenes on, like, Geonosis or something like that, which just looks really fake and just terrible. I don't even know where to begin explaining how amazing John Williams' soundtrack is for this movie. I've already talked about it throughout this video and stuff. This soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks in movie history, I would say. Just so stunning, and John Williams just completely kills it. He just makes such a like adventurous, exotic soundtrack, and it just it fits the film really well. And you know, The Phantom Menace is a film, you know, it's not that great, but his soundtrack just like adds so much to it. Like, it makes it so much better than it really is. It's just it's unreal. It's just such an amazing soundtrack, and you know, it's up there with the original trilogy, and I'd say it rivals A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. I might like it even better than those ones, but I'd probably say Empire is my all-time Star Wars favorite soundtrack. That's just amazing. But The Phantom Menace just creates such a unique soundtrack, and it's like the best part of the movie. It's stunning. Like, I don't really know what more to say about it. It's just such a unique and innovative soundtrack, and everyone's always loved the Phantom Menace soundtrack, you know, so people might have differing opinions on the film, but like everyone can agree the soundtrack is the best part of the movie, pretty much. Just as a final kind of thing, is the sequel trilogy, is that better? Does that look better than The Phantom Menace? I would actually say no. I think Phantom Menace actually looks better than Force Awakens and Last Jedi and like Rogue One and stuff. I haven't seen Solo. And I do like the look of Last Jedi and Rogue One, but I feel like The Phantom Menace just looks a lot more crisp. And Rogue One, and it just looks a little video gamey at parts and stuff. And Last Jedi, it just has really bad CGI, like at certain points of the movie. Just really bad, you know, especially the casino planet, all those weird creatures. I don't want to talk about it. And Force Awakens is just, I really didn't like the way Force Awakens looked. It was kind of disappointing. I know, I'm pretty sure it was shot on film. I don't really know, but it is. I mean, as long as it looks good, right? But Force Awakens, you can tell they CGI'd over a lot of the movie from what it originally was. You know, if you go back to like the first trailers, it looks a lot different than it did in the end. that you can definitely tell they did like the CGI J.J. Abrams cinematic style, and I didn't really like that, honestly. It just didn't look that good to me. So yeah, Phantom Menace is even better than those. So yeah, Phantom Menace is the best looking Star Wars movie since the original trilogy, I'd say. And maybe there's some bad special effects here and there, but it doesn't really matter because overall the movie blends special effects and practical effects just amazingly. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. So peace.